Hey everybody, how y'all feeling out there? I'm Greg Alvik and this is the Double A Show. Today on the Double A Show, more is going to be revealed about the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The opinions and perspectives expressed on this program are exclusive to the Double A Show. Greg's unique perspectives are not found in a church, mosque, or a synagogue. This show contains offensive language and irreverent themes. So, getting after some more of those funky religious doctrines, here's Greg Alvik. You got this, right? So today, we're going to take a sip of that fig-flavored Kool-Aid. We've been learning some Bible stories that really, when you think about it, the church has fucked them up pretty bad. And there are reasons for that, and maybe one day we'll get into it. Where did the church go wrong? Honestly. Y'all thought the tagline that I put on the front of this and the thumbnail, the effed up Bible stories, was me ripping into the Bible about the stories that we're telling. But no, that's not what I'm doing now, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm giving the church trouble for the way they've been telling the stories. Sometimes I think they got no business to be talking about the Bible the way they do. They F it up too much. So for the last couple of weeks, just as a reminder to summarize, we've been talking about, going through the Garden of Eden and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and all that kind of stuff. And first, we learned that it wasn't an apple. I mean, we took our time, found it out. That hurt some feelings out there. I know that there was a lot of people that, are mad because they would have got that answer wrong on Jeopardy. But hey, you got to learn. You want to learn the truth, so we're willing to take the hits, right? Then we learned it was highly likely that the fruit on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was actually a fig. And we had good evidence for that. It's not dead set. Sure, no one comes out in the Bible and says the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a fig tree. But there's a lot of good evidence, and we wrapped all that up too. But once we had that figured out, we started tracing the story in the Bible, and we learned that figs and fig trees, there's a lot of prominent information about figs are quite popular in the Bible, and especially when it comes to their relationship and association to Israel. So we actually saw and traced the link to Israel a little bit, and we established that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and fig trees and Israel kind of go together. But now we're going to go even deeper. A lot of people could follow right along. No one's toes was really getting stepped on unless you have a real hard thing for apples or something. But no one's toes were really getting stepped on. I didn't do no damage. We might do some damage now because we're getting into this deeper, and we're going to find out what figs and what that all means spiritually to us, right? Leads us to where we're going today, which I'm going to bring somebody else in, right? Because somebody with a different, history and different ideas, and then that I don't be tripping and making this shit up, right? I'm all on my own. I want to lend some credibility to my work here. But back in the day when I was working, I'd drive to work every day listening to the radio. I'd be flipping through the channels, and I ran across this dude one day. And in this particular thing, he was talking about something else entirely. He was talking about, Nathaniel, and when Nathaniel and Jesus kind of got together back, in the New Testament, and he went there and he brought all this stuff up, and it was right in line with where I'm going here. So this guy was studying, I want you to listen to here. He was studying to be a rabbi. He was all ready to go, and he got to the part where, he's trying to figure out about the Jewish Messiah, who's the Messiah, and he threw Jesus' name. Because if you don't, you got to do your work, right? So he threw Jesus' name, filled in the blank with Jesus. Jesus as the Messiah. Does it work, or does it fit, or doesn't it, And so he starts doing that work, and he ends up discovering that it's a pretty good fit. So if you want to remain a rabbi, don't study with any integrity, Jesus, because it works out too good. So anyway, guess what? This guy's no longer a Jewish rabbi. He converted to Christianity. Now this is where the story of Jesus meeting Nathanael for the first time, and you know Jesus is out there collecting disciples, and Philip runs over and gets Nathanael, who's hanging out under this fig tree, and it's just kind of this weird fig tree story, right? And it goes a little something like this. Check it out. Here's what he's saying.
But in this case, if somebody is sitting under a fig tree, the rabbis taught at that time that the reason why somebody should be under a fig tree would be to study the scriptures or to meditate on the scriptures.
So Nathanael was sitting under a fig tree, and he just told us that everyone back in the day would assume that he meant he was sitting there studying scriptures. That's what that meant. This guy is coming at this topic from a completely different direction with a completely different purpose. But he just happens to state some information, rabbinical information, that's useful to me over here in this other area I'm interested in. But check this out. Here he goes.
In fact, there were many rabbis during this time who would only teach under a fig tree. They would not teach under any other tree.
Only teach under a fig tree. Wouldn't teach under an apple tree. They wouldn't teach under a pear tree, an apricot tree, nothing like that. Only a fig tree. I don't know about you, but my wheels is already spinning just hearing that. I mean, my Sherlock Holmes hat kind of tilted over to the side, went into pimp position, and I'm already like, give it to me. Come on, what's up? Show me what's up. Check it out.
Why? What would be so significant about the fig tree? Why not some other tree? What's such a big deal about the fig tree? Well, this goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden.
Okay, now I almost tipped over in my chair when he went there, right? I mean, how many of you know that where he's going already? This is our subject. This is what we're talking about. This is the shit we were discussing. So how did we get from Jesus collecting disciples, and suddenly here we are standing right here at the Garden of Eden? Here it comes. Fasten your seatbelts. Put your trays in the upright positions. We're getting ready to launch, baby. You ready? We're going down the runway now. Here it is.
In the Garden of Eden, there was a tree of life, and there was a tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Can you believe that? I ain't even making this up, right? I mean, homie's taking us all there, all by himself. I'm not prodding him. I'm not having to, rib him and just, come on, tell him about this. He just took us not only to the Garden of Eden, where we're standing right there now next to the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Isn't that nuts? That's nutty. That's craziness.
But I believe that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was a fig tree because as soon as they ate from the wrong tree, from that fruit, they realized that they were naked and that they needed some clothing, and so they grabbed a fig leaf. And it's my belief that that was probably the nearest leaf that they could reach for.
Boom. That's exactly what I said. Damn. That's what I'm talking about. Adam and Eve was on the Naked and Ashamed show. Here it goes. No, we're talking about, that's just...
In addition to that, in some places in the scriptures, you will see that the fig or the fig tree has an association with the knowledge of good and evil. So I believe that the fig tree represented, or there was a representation that could be found, that the fig tree was representative of the knowledge of good and evil. And this is what the rabbis believed. They believed that it was a fig tree. Why would they only teach under a fig tree? What would they teach? That's where the answer is found. It's based on what they would teach. What were they teaching? Well, the scriptures.
So without studying the Midrash and the Talmud and these other collection of Jewish opinion on the Bible and diving into all these varieties of the rabbinical thought, that they've saved it for throughout the ages, and it's just extensive. But a dude like me may never come to know a little tidbit like that, that rabbis thought it was a fig tree. Not only that, But rabbis associate the fig tree with the knowledge of good and evil. In their circles, it's probably not even an argument, but it's crazy, right? I mean, now it's not even a stretch to ask, what the fuck are you guys doing sitting under a fig tree teaching scriptures? That's what I was asking. What would they teach?
Those scriptures were the law of Moses. That was the law. It was God's contribution to mankind's great effort to try to be like him through the knowledge of good and evil. It is a description of the knowledge of good and evil.
Hold up. I know you just can't hear that and just shrug and run off. Keep going on your merry way and not be affected. He just said that the law of Moses is the knowledge of good and evil. He just said that. He just said that the rabbis know that what they were teaching people is the very description of the knowledge of good and evil. He just said, I didn't say it. He just said it. It was God's contribution to mankind's great effort to try to be like him through the knowledge of good and evil. Maybe he didn't mean that. I mean, I know he said it, but maybe he didn't mean it. Maybe I'm taking it all wrong. Could we have heard it wrong?
And so they made that association between the fig tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and learning about good and evil. That's where that came from. And so for this reason, there were many rabbis who would never teach unless you were under a fig tree.
Nope. Well, he meant it. Many old school rabbis, the ones from way back in Jesus' time, would only teach the law of Moses if they were sitting under a fig tree. I guarantee you're going to want to come back, and that means subscribe so that you get the notification, right? You're going to want to be with us. You're not going to want to miss this next episode of the Double A Show, because we're going to let Jesus show us some more stuff, and Jesus don't play. You know that. I ain't even lying. Jesus gets after it. So, if you like this video, please smash the like button. And if you're really feeling charitable and blessed, share it. Share it with folks on your Facebook, and share it with people on your Twitter feed. And go over to GrayGolvik.com, and over there at my website, you can play around on there and see all my work. I'm still trying to figure shit out and what to do next. But really, it's all about you guys and making these videos, making these shows for you. So thanks. I really appreciate you guys for watching. It's really a lot of fun for me. But that's it. This show's over. Let's lock this motherfucker up.